Hi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Kat. I'm at Cleric of Horde, and I would like to thank Rosie at Valdrianth for having us for this Extra Life Charity Weekend. We've got a very nice horror game in store for you called Stille Nacht. I'd like to remind everybody that the purpose for this is to raise money for Extra Life for kids. This is Extra Life Weekend. I personally have set up a goal to help Le Bonheur Children's Hospital, which is in Memphis, Tennessee, because I worked there for a number of years in the emergency room, and I am quite familiar with the good work that they do. And this has been a year, and anything we can do to make it a little bit easier for some of these kids is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Our current stretch goal is $1,200, and we are at 1130, so 70 more to go. I think we've got something like 28, 29 sub points coming. So let's go ahead and let's push that. If you would like to donate to Streamlabs or the Ko-fi link and you want it to go to Extra Life, please make sure you put that in the donation message. And I think that's about it. Oh, if you have a Twitch Prime sub just kind of sitting in your back pocket that you're not using, that's a great way to do it. And if my players are ready, we will begin. Let's start with our introductions. Theater Nerd.
Okay. Hi, I'm Theater Nerd. I use they them pronouns. I am playing Sophie today, and she uses she her pronouns.
Mr. Paladin Hulk.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paladin Hulk. I will be playing Michiel Schreiber, and he, as well as I, uses he, him.
Celeste, good to see you.
I'm Celeste. I use they, ze, or he pronouns. I am playing Regina. She uses she, her pronouns.
And Ulfrigg.
Hello, I go by Ulfrigg on the interwebs. I use she and they pronouns. I love it when people swap between the two. And I'll be playing Marguerite, who uses she, her pronouns.
And I am Kat at Cleric of Court, and I use she, her pronouns. I will be playing the medium and the ghost, who also use she, her pronouns. So a little bit about this game, because I think it's always important to start off with some information about it. Again, just to start with, this is a horror game. This is the game with that involves the death or murder of an individual, and the players are villagers who are somehow connected to the ghost. One of them is the murderer. And the seance that we will be having is to determine who is the murderer, or maybe not. We're trying to find the ghost some peace. This is a ghost that wants to rest. Other themes that I include as content warning is there will be conflict between our characters and the ghost and the characters. This setting for the game involves a natural disaster, which was a hurricane that struck the northern coast of Friesland in the 1720s. So we'll get that out of the way. We are using safety tools. We have lines and veils, and we are using the X, N, and O card behind the scenes for our players. If you're not familiar with those, X means a hard stop. N means we're getting close. This is uncomfortable. Can we move on? And O is just checking in. I'm okay. I encourage everybody who is watching that if you find yourself in a place where you're getting upset, if you need to take a break, if this gets a little too close to home, step away. Take care of yourself. You're more important than the game. And you can always come back. Okay? Because we want you to be safe as we want the players to be safe. And let's see, shall we begin? The historical background of Stille Nacht is the Christmas flood of 1717, which killed over 10,000 people as it hit the coasts of Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. In those days, the dikes that were meant to protect the villages and settlements were much smaller and far less sturdy in comparison to what people on the coasts are building today. During the first half of December 24th, rough winds swept across the North Sea and its coastal regions. It picked up later in the afternoon. When it did finally die down in the evening, people thought themselves safe. The evening tide had only been slightly higher than usual, and everyone went to bed. Shortly after midnight, a hurricane rose in the northwest. As it began to bear down on the coast, it trapped the water of the evening tide and pushed it against the feeble dike constructions, going higher and higher, even before the morning tide rolled in. And in the early hours of December 25th, the first dikes collapsed while most people were still sleeping. The priests spoke of the wrath of God, while hunger and sickness claimed more lives in the weeks and the months that followed. In an account translated by Petra Volkhausen, who is the creator of this game, and you should be following her. Here, one caught sight of frozen mothers, their babies in their arms, spouses tied to each other with ropes. There on the trees, ghastly corpses hung. Survivors had saved their lives, but nothing more than that. Their spouses, their parents, sons, daughters, brides, brothers, sisters, friends, and acquaintances were gone. Gone was their property, cash, cattle, supplies of peat, and all sorts of food, and they stood there miserably like the shipwrecked. This is an eyewitness account to the flood of 1717. The beginning of our game, the scene is set as such. It is the eve of December 24th, 1720. Cold and damp comes the wind from the sea, and it ushers in a fog thick enough to cut with a knife. It settles around the houses and the muddy streets. Faint light seeps through the windows, but no one moves behind closed shutters and drawn curtains. Everyone is holding their breath, not in pious anticipation. Many a holy name has slipped from cracked lips since sundown. They ask for protection, not to welcome a savior to the world. And once more, on Christmas Eve, will bring a night of terror for the residents of this pitiful place. 3 years ago, the sea swept inland, overpowered the dikes, and took whomever and whatever it wanted. Many dragged from their homes without mercy, never to be seen again. Bodies lined the beach when the ice-cold water finally receded like precious driftwood. And although rites had been said and names written on wooden crosses, there was something about the flood that would just not let the souls of the dead rest in peace. And so they returned 1 year later, wandering the streets, entering the houses of those they used to be close with. And these scenes repeated themselves year after year. Not all of these ghosts long to be reunited with their families, however. Some are seeking truth and justice. A person calling themselves a medium has invited you to take part in a summoning. The haunting will come to an end, she says, and the ghost rest in peace, if only you are committed to speaking the truth and nothing but the truth. Ghost, they said, singular. They know. They know what you've been haunted by. One soul, and one soul only. You were all asked here tonight to bring to an end to what has been an unnecessarily prolonged ordeal. I know that you've been visited by the same ghost. Someone who died a terrible death 3 years ago. But it wasn't the flood that killed them. All of you were close by in this poor soul's final moments. And what each of you did, I do not know yet. But tonight we shall find out. One by one, you enter the small hut on the outskirts of the small village where you've been invited to meet. Once it was the home of a fisherman, a widower whose only child was away at university when the storm struck. The man died in the flood. that night, and the house has stood abandoned since then. As you enter the main room, it's clean. There's no dust or debris, as if the owner had only left that morning. Most of the villagers have retired to their beds, awaiting the specters that haunt them and the tolling of the bell from a church that no longer stands. 4 thick white candles burn on the center of the table, and in the middle, a 4th candle grouped with a lump of the hard-won Frisian salt from the peat and a bell. A low fire burns in the hearth, giving off little light and even less heat. And outside, the wind is rising, coming in off the ocean, bringing with it an icy rain. And yet the sound of the storm is oddly muffled as you enter. Tonight, you will see the ghost that has entered your homes uninvited, as it has every year on this night since that terrible storm 4 years ago. Perhaps some of you knew that the others were visited by the same specter. Some of you may be surprised to see the others here, thinking you alone were being visited. It is possible that some of you are visited by more than one ghost. Perhaps someone you were close to that also died that night. Everyone has seen the spirits that walk through the streets, silently crying out, calling the names of their loved ones, the misty shapes where the church once stood, the souls of those whose bodies were never recovered. They gather on the hallowed ground, hoping to find peace. Who enters first?
I will. I'll be dressed for the weather. I'm a dock hand, so bad weather's nothing new for me. The medium is there, right? Or yeah.
Yes.
I'll ask her, why are we doing this here? This place, it has nothing to do with us or the ghost. And I'll sit down.
This place was chosen as neutral. Would you rather a place more fraught with emotions?
I don't
Your own
know.
home?
I don't understand how this works.
I will
How
explain.
are you doing this anyway? Are you a Roma? A witch? Druid?
I am one who can see things that are hidden from others.
You're sure this will work, yes?
That is up to you.
Okay.
Who enters next?
You can go ahead. Okay, fine. I'll enter next. Sophie enters next. And I think she's quiet and pensive and enters and just sits down.
How old is
I'll
she?
give her the nod.
She is fairly young. Early 20s, like 23, 24.
Next.
Marguerite enters next. She is in her early 50s, very motherly looking, very, yeah. And she sees Sophie and gives her kind of a cool nod and goes over to Michael and, like, if he'll accept it, we'll give him a little hug.
Will also put an arm around you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Margriet, I'm so sorry you have to be here for this.
We all
I
have
thought at least she would be nice to you.
we all have past reckonings. This one's for all of us, I guess.
Yeah.
Regina follows in shortly after that. Somewhat tall, mid-30s. The blouse she's wearing barely disguises the thickness of her arms. She's a blacksmith. It looks like she's still a little bit dirty from work. She enters and sits down very quietly, but she does look around the room at the others and takes note. And takes a deep breath. Brother?
You ready for this?
As ready as one can be.
I brought some alcohol. Is if anyone wants a shot before, No. Okay, good. Just for me then, and I'll take a little sip.
So I'd like to take a moment and have you all tell me what you did to prepare for tonight. What was your day like today? And if you want to tell us how you met the medium, yeah, please feel free to include that. So let's go in reverse order with Regina.
Regina didn't really do anything out of the ordinary today. She did go to the ghost's grave, but she does that every year, hoping that maybe paying respects will keep her from arising that night. She spent her day at work. There are a couple pieces that needed finished before she takes the day tomorrow. And the medium approached her while she was working. She agreed to come. She felt she needs to.
Were you taken aback by this woman who approached you and asked you to participate in this seance?
No, it was a strange request, but I think in a way it feels like it's been a long time coming.
Marguerite?
Marguerite spent the morning doing various good deeds, visiting people in their homes and trying to help out where she could. Things are still pretty rough even 3 years after the flood. And then in the afternoon, she went down to the shore to just kind of take some time for herself and look out over the water. And I reckon that's where she and the medium met.
Sophie?
For Sophie, I think Sophie still takes care of all the horses at the stable. But I think today in particular, I think Sophie went to the hayloft where the body was found. And I guess meditated. Is the best word. I don't know that she's a particularly faithful person. But I think she did like meditate in the hayloft. And as for where the medium met her, I think especially now after the death, I think Sophie spends a lot of time at like the local tavern or bar, or alcohol getting equivalent would be, and probably to an unhealthy amount.
Michiel?
I will also have been drinking a bit, but I'll not be doing it alone. I'll be doing it with a friend who also survived but lost like their parents, and I'll visit my mother's grave, and I think that's where the medium finds me.
As you take your place at the table, the woman who you met, the medium, she had introduced herself as Charlotte. And she's a young woman, somewhat probably surprising to you. Chestnut brown hair, she wears it in a thick braid wrapped around her head, a few curling strands that escape to frame her soft, round face. She's dressed plainly in simple, warm woolen skirts with a shawl wrapped around her. She has bright blue eyes. It's her most striking feature. All of you remember how they seem to see deep within you, while shining with kindness and an understanding as she sought you out one by one, inviting you to join her here tonight. How she knew about the ghost that has haunted you each year is a mystery, but no, she did.
Did
Now
you want
seated with-
payment or something? Or
She asked no payment. And if it was offered, she refused. I'm here to help you.
Well, we
Seated
almost
with her-
literally have nothing left to lose, so... What the heck?
Seated with her back to the fire, her eyes piercing in the dim light, she looks at all of you, meeting your eyes before moving on. Honesty is your only way out.
What
You
does
will
that
suffer
mean?
tonight. You may even die. But if you do, it is your chance for redemption. The ghost seeks the truth of what happened that night. They seek peace. They wish to move on. And only by being honest can that happen. Some of you may be harmed tonight. Some of you may die. But again, this is your chance for redemption by giving the ghost peace. Holding out her hands, she nods at all of you, indicating you should join them. As the circle completes, her eyes close. And where Charlotte sat in this chair, there is a mist forming. Starts out thin, amorphous, almost as if smoke from the fire had drifted in front of her. And slowly it becomes thicker until you aren't sure, can you even make out the form of the young woman sitting in the chair? This is the ghost, and you know this ghost. You can't see the features, but yet you know who this is. They are immediately recognizable to you. A raspy breath is indrawn. And the ghost turns to Regina. What is my name?
Your name is Annette.
Annette. Marguerite. How old was I at the time of my death?
You are 52 years old.
Yes. 50. Old, but not yet infirm, I think. Sophie? Sophie, what were my daily chores?
Well, you kept the storefront at our stable, or at your stable.
My stable? Yeah. Mihir. You're here. Where was my body found?
Your dead body was found in your stables in the hayloft.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I died 4 years ago.
And you've
But my
been haunting
soul,
us ever since.
it finds no rest. I drift aimlessly. I know year after year, I am pulled back here. I wish to move on. I do not want to be here.
Perhaps you need to repent for your sins. Hmm?
Are you here to help me find out how I died so I can find peace, Michiel?
I'm here to make sure you stop haunting us. If that's what it takes, so be it.
Marguerite, Are you here to help me find out how I died so I may rest in peace?
Yes, absolutely.
And you, Sophie?
Of course. You deserve rest.
Regina, are you here to help me find my peace?
Yes, of course. Of course.
And does each of you agree? The ghost becomes more solid, corporeal. And as Regina agrees, you see before you Annette, the woman that you knew as you last saw her in life, or perhaps death.
And still you look exactly like our mother, but with none of the warmth.
Mother. Her mother.
It's your sister, Rihanna.
I don't remember. I want to remember, but I don't. I don't
She's
remember.
your twin. Exactly
don't-
like you, but better in every way.
Twin. I don't remember. Help me remember. Help me remember. I want my peace. I want my peace. And with that, I need to know truth or lie. If you are here to find the truth for the ghost so that they can rest. The ghost nods. Annette, as she looks at you, looks around the table. For her eyes stop on Marguerite. I was at the church the morning of my last day. I went there for my morning prayers. Why did our paths cross?
Marguerite is going to look embarrassed for a moment, and she's going to say, we would often go together for morning prayers. And we would often leave together when the prayers were done.
You were going with me to press. Yes.
How could you not remember her?
I don't remember much at all.
It's all right. It's all right. It's
I'll squeeze Margriet's hand because I feel bad for her.
Michiel, were you there too? Did you attend morning press with us?
No. I was not. I was at the docks working.
he worked very hard. He still does.
For
You
all
would
the
be
good it
proud.
does.
Regina? Why were you, Michiel, ignoring each other?
We had a disagreement. We have disagreements from time to time, as siblings are wont to do.
Normal. It wasn't anything big. Family. That's something that matters something to us. It's important.
I was just frustrated with something that he'd said to me.
I don't even remember what it was.
It seems silly in hindsight.
The time before the flood. So different.
Sophie, where were you that morning?
I was doing the morning chores. I don't often get to morning prayer.
What chores?
Feeding the horses, making sure they have water, cleaning stalls.
Yes, you're a good employee. You were very conscientious in your work. The animals, they liked you. I remember. Even as young as you were, you had a way with them.
Sophie has always been blessed.
Michiel, no press for you.
No what for me? No
Prayers.
No, not that. I pray on my own.
Is that why you and Regina were fighting?
About religion? Of course not. It's a silly thing to fight about. No, it was something about money, probably.
Do you fight often?
With Regina? No. I mean, how often is normal? You know, we're brother and sister. We fight. It happens. There is no one I am closer to. Now that our mother has passed.
Truth or lies? Already, my memories become clearer. Yes. As I know the truth, I remember my sister, her children, my friends, and dear Sophie. You were like a daughter to me, I think. Mikhail, at midday when the church bell rang, I know I saw you, but I don't remember where. Where was I? What was I doing?
You went to your sister's grave. And I was already there. You missed the funeral. Because, no, why did you miss the funeral? It was so easy for you to come down, and you didn't. Your own twin sister.
When did she die? Did she die that night as well?
No, blessedly she was spared that fate. She died a few days before the flood. Of a sickness. The only person in the whole village who managed to get a decent funeral before everything went to hell.
Sickness. Do the dead need us? Maybe. I wonder if I'd said my goodbyes.
I don't know. I left when you arrived.
Sophie, was anyone else with me there? Were you there with me, Sophie?
I think I went with you.
I can always rely on you, Sophie. Yes.
I mean, I felt like I was part of the family, so if she was your sister, so it felt right to go with her, or go with you.
Yes, you were, I think, very much part of our family. Closer to me than those of my own blood at times, I think.
That's the truth.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Mikhail?
Do you not remember that you were not close with us?
I
Do
don't
you not feel the distance?
I don't
That's why you're
appreciate.
angry. Go ahead.
I don't appreciate your attitude. You've had nothing but a sour attitude the whole time. We are trying to get her to move on. If you don't like her, why did you come?
Because she haunts me.
Well, then maybe you should actively try to figure out who it is.
What is?
Who killed her?
I don't know. I'll look around the room and I'll get nothing.
Why are you always so angry?
You and I were not close. I wanted to be close to you because you were family, and family is important to me. You were successful, and I wanted to be successful too, but you did not want to be close to me.
Maybe if you applied yourself, you could have been successful in spite of that.
Yes, we can't all be as good as you, Sophie. I tried.
Regina, it was noisy in the marketplace. I remember being at the marketplace after or before. Why was it so noisy there?
There was a commotion, there was a fight. I can't remember who was involved, but some sort of fight broke out between some folks, and I I tried not to pay it any mind. I just went about my work. They seemed determined to drag others into it, but I didn't want any part of it.
Is that why you ran home, Marguerite? Why?
Yes, I ran home because I was afraid of the fighting. Yes.
Did you know who was fighting?
I didn't see.
Wasn't it your husband? Or one of his friends?
It. Yes, Jorgen came home later and he was bruised.
They fought on Christmas Eve. So many fights that day. Mikhail, Regina, Jorgen.
I mean, we didn't fight. I would never hurt my own sister.
But you argued.
An argument is not the same as a fist fight.
You're right. Sometimes it hurts worse than a fist fight.
That is also true.
Yes. Yes, yes. The fight. Now I remember. I think some of the younger men intoxicated, starting Christmas celebrations early, fighting. Is that what you remember, Marguerite?
It was. Yes, it was the young men and they were drunk. I think Jorgen must have tried to break it up.
It's a good man.
He was.
Was.
He died in the flood.
Truth or lies?
Sorry, I sent that to the wrong person.
It's okay. The woman you knew as Annette, her face hardens. And you see a fire in her eyes, an intensity. And it's a look some of you know. You can tell that she is angry and that her temper is something to be feared. And yet now, in her death, she is even more fierce. Her form seems to reach out to the table A misty hand extending. You have lied to me. One of you has lied to me. Somebody has lied to me. Do not lie to me. And harm is going to be dealt at random. Regina, you're 1. Michiel, you're 2. Marguerite, you're 3. Sophie, you are 4. And the medium is 5. And it is the medium who takes harm.
Ouch. Why would you hurt her? She hasn't said anything.
The medium, you see, almost as Annette steps away and stands next to the chair and caresses the young woman's face. Eyes closed. You can see the muscles of her neck standing out as her jaw clenches.
Stop it, you're hurting her. She didn't kill you. She wasn't even there.
Perhaps I should turn my anger on you, Michiel.
Wouldn't be
And
the
you-
first time.
You've turned your anger on me.
Mikhail, that's enough.
I'm sorry.
We're
And
never
you
going to
see
find the
me.
truth if you keep lashing out. Calm yourself.
Look, if one of you killed her, just admit it. Just say it. It's fine. I forgive you. We all forgive you. It's okay. Let's just get
I
her.
do not forgive. It's not your forgiveness to give, Michiel. And you see the medium slowly, the face relaxes. She forces herself to maintain concentration. And you know that should the medium take too much more harm, that she will lose control of the ghost. As the medium relaxes, Annette once again sits down in the same chair, occupying the same space as the medium. I want to know what happened. I am here to find peace, not more strife.
Fine. Do you remember who killed you?
No,
Or why?
but no, but I want to know. I want to know. That's the only way. It's the only way. I need to know. Sophie, by early afternoon, the winds had gotten strong. A storm was coming. The clouds over the water. It tore the barn doors off the hinges. I remember the horses were panicking. You, Sophie, so reliable. You were there to help, were you not?
Of course I was there. Trying to keep the horses as calm as possible.
They were panicking. Regina, why did you not help? You were there, weren't you?
No, I was there. I was there.
But
I brought my hammer. I brought nails. I'm one of the strongest women in the village. Of course I came.
Yes. Unlike your frail mother. Was she frail? Are
Terribly.
you strong like me?
She was terribly frail. My strength came from father's side.
Sick. It's not her fault.
Marguerite, I was hurt. I got hurt. How did I get hurt?
I think it was one of the horses as you were trying to keep them in the stable. They were all kicking and pounding, and I think it was one of them. I was at home. I don't know. If I had listened to the warning of the horses, things would have gone differently.
How did you know it was the horses that hurt me? You were home?
I was.
Are you lying to me, Marguerite, my friend?
No, not about. No. I don't know. I was at home with Yarkin.
Yes, because he found out, didn't he? He found out.
He was told. Yes. He was.
Is that what the fight was about?
Nikhil? Why was there a fight? Is that the fight?
Don't know. Maybe. I'm asking.
Jorgen found out about your little affair with Marguerite.
So you can stop calling her your friend now. We all know.
It was one of the poorest kept secrets.
Everyone knew.
Except poor Jorgen. Adulterous wench.
You shame her
she's a
for
good
loving?
woman.
I shame her for breaking her vows.
Marguerite,
Yes,
did you love me?
You gave me something Jorgen could not.
Did I love you?
I don't know. I don't think you did, actually. Yes, I loved you.
And yet we're still friends. You were my friend.
Yes. And more.
And more. How did I get hurt, Marguerite? Is that what hurt me?
I don't know.
Truth or lies?
Did you know Sophie?
It was pretty obvious, spending as much time as I do around the stables, and thusly around the two of you. But I assure you, I didn't care. I don't care.
The fighting on Christmas Eve. Disagreements, arguments. Did you fight with York and Marguerite?
Not exactly. He wanted to know if it was true. And I couldn't answer him. And I wish we had fought. It would have been so much easier if we had fought. He deserved to be angry. You deserve to be angry with me if you want, actually. That's...
But I loved you.
You did?
Yes. I remember. Did I not ever tell you that?
Not in words. I had hoped you had.
I should have told you.
It wasn't your way, and I knew that. You were so strong and so quiet. It's what made it all the more special when you did choose to let someone in.
I am sorry, Marguerite. I should have said those words to you when I was alive.
It's all right. I understand.
Something was taken from me, though, that night. That evening. Marguerite, what was taken from me?
You had a charm that you wore about your neck. You said your mother gave it to you. I never really knew. Your sister had one too, of course. They didn't find it with you. We never knew if it was taken or if it was lost in the flood, but it was gone when we found you the next day.
Oh, I have that.
You have that?
Yes, I'll take it out.
Why do you have that?
She and I argued that night. I felt bad about ignoring her when we saw each other at mother's grave, you know. And I thought, well, mother is gone. Perhaps I should try again, you know, to connect to Annette, to my aunt, to my family. We don't have much left now. It's just Dad and my sister. She's obviously hurting too. I thought I should do the right thing. Be the bigger man. And I went to you. And I tried to connect to you, to share in our sadness. And you were so cold and distant. I got angry with you. And I ripped that stupid necklace. You don't deserve that necklace. My mother told me.
So while you were staying inside that evening when the wind died down, I saw you through the window, Mikhail.
Yeah,
I saw you.
I was there.
But I saw you through the window.
Probably when I was coming in, I don't know.
Regina, that evening when the wind died down and it even stopped raining, and we had repaired the barn doors, and the horses were calm. And I wanted to say my evening prayers. Why did you interrupt me?
I needed to understand. I needed to understand how... I needed to understand why you didn't seem to care. That you were destroying a home, a family. I didn't understand. You knew that Marguerite was married. You knew that she and Jorgen had their vows, and still the two of you carried on without a care in the world.
And it is your place to judge.
I just wanted to understand, but...
You were supposed to love us.
But I lost my temper.
We needed you when our mother died.
I lost my temper. I never lost my temper. Everybody in town knew I was so quiet. I was so well behaved, but that night something in me broke.
And so you stopped me on my way to prayers to yell at me.
I did more than
Sophie?
yell.
Sophie, you were disappointed. I saw your face. Why were you disappointed? What happened?
I was disappointed in Regina for judging you so harshly for loving who you loved. And even though I was secretly a bit jealous about the relationship, she made you happy. And that made me happy.
Truth or lies?
Thank you, Sophie. I never knew.
She was lucky to have you, Margit.
Up to a point, it seems. Isn't that right, Regina?
All these years in retrospect, I've wondered if maybe I wasn't just bitter, jealous, wanting what you had. I didn't have anyone not like that. I had my brother. I had my father. I had my mother before she passed. I didn't have an Annette. I didn't have a Marguerite.
You two are so alike. You're both so strong and so quiet and contain depths. It's like when you look out at the ocean and it's calm, and the waves lap so gently on the shore, but you know it swallows entire boats up.
Fuck that ocean. It took so much from us.
But didn't it give you quite a bit? Weren't you a dockhand? Aren't you a dockhand?
Yes, that's the glorious, fun existence I've always dreamed of.
You can still apply yourself. There are many trades you can still learn.
What's the use?
Hard work is honorable in itself.
Marguerite,
Annette.
in the early morning hours, when the waters had already started to flood the homes, I wasn't asleep like so many still were. I was on my way to the stables to check on the horses to see if the barn doors had held. Where were you when the flooding began?
I was with my son. He was afraid of the storm coming back. So we had gone for a walk. I saw you. You saw us.
I remember. Michiel, why did you wake up before the flood came?
I know the ocean. I think I could sense what was going to happen. I went out and I looked at the storm as it was coming in.
Sophie, why were you sleepless that night?
It was my job to take the horses inland. So as soon as I felt in my bones, it was all about securing the horses and trying to get them to somewhere where they might be okay, because otherwise my livelihood would have been gone.
Yes, if we lost the stables. My stables. What if... Did we lose the stables, Sophie? Are they still there?
No, I'm still working with Carl, our favorite horse.
Oh, Carl. Yes. It's a beautiful animal. Beautiful. I'm glad that he survived, that you were able to save him. Even if you weren't able to save me. Regina, what did you pray for that night?
I prayed for my own salvation. I knew what I was planning. And I was sure of where my soul would go afterward. I was so angry. And I just couldn't be quiet about it anymore.
Truth or lies?
What were you planning?
I think we all know.
Do you think less of me now, Mikhail?
It's fine. It's been 4 years.
All your talk of family.
We will
You
always
told
be family.
Jurgen.
Jurgen knew. Jurgen knew after that fight with those drunken young men. They told him. He confronted Marguerite. I was sure there was nothing left to be said about that. No. I needed to end the source of the problem.
Did you pray at all that night? With such hardness in your heart?
Perhaps they were insincere, but they were what one might call prayers.
Well, I
So
pray
much
that,
anger.
well, I certainly pray that God has mercy on you.
Pray our mother forgives you.
Do you pray for me, Marguerite?
Of course I do.
And you, Mikhail?
Do I pray for you? No.
Regina?
Every night on the anniversary of the past 4 years, every Christmas Eve, I've gone to your grave. And I think I've prayed to you for forgiveness.
Such blasphemy. Sophie?
This might disappoint you. I'm not much of a praying woman. But
Do you not pray for my soul to find peace? When I come visit you?
I do it in my own way. I suppose meditation is a prayer of sorts. But no, I did not pray exactly to a higher being, to God, to save your soul. But I did meditate on you finding rest.
Is that why you're here?
To help you find rest?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that true for all of you? Or did you lie to me earlier?
No, it was true. It's
I
true.
meant what I said.
I want you to find rest. I wish you could stay, but I know this isn't right, and I want you to find rest.
Shortly before I died, I had gone to the stables to move the horses. Back, I was taking them to your farm, Marguerite.
Mm-hmm.
You were on higher ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I was bringing the horses to stable them. We'd done so before during bad storms. You were very kind. Jorgen was kind to allow me to use the barn. But as I was at the stable, I remember a bright flash of light. There was thunder and lightning as the storm opened up. And lightning struck the church bell tower. Do you remember? It was so loud, so bright.
It sounded like the whole world was splitting in two.
Yes. My vision went white. All I could see was the light and the noise. I remember the noise, the thunder, as if the world split in two and then came down upon us. But then there was pain. That was the last thing I saw. That's the last thing I remember. Light, noise, and pain. Sophie, why did you not prevent my death? You cared for me. You were like a daughter to me. We were close. Why did you not prevent my death?
I didn't see it coming. If I would have tried had I seen it coming. I was preoccupied with the horses.
Marguerite, why didn't you stop it?
Marcus, my son, he started crying. He was so afraid of the noise. And there was this roaring coming behind that horrible crash, and I ran. For all the good it did, I ran.
To save yourself and your son.
Yes. Half succeeded. The wrong half.
What do you mean, the wrong half, Marguerite?
I will never know why God decided I was the one to be spared.
Do they come visit you too?
They do. They offer words of forgiveness and sadness.
Nikhil, did you try to prevent my death?
I ran to your house that night, but not for my concern for you. I was concerned for my sister. She was not in the village, and I thought she might have gone to see you. But I was too late to save your life, and I will never know what I would have done if I was there on time.
Regina, did you not try to prevent my death?
No. No.
Why?
It was me. I took a hammer from my
Confessing.
forge. I took a hammer from my forge and I was going to use that, but then I thought with the incoming flood, maybe I could cover it up. Instead, I forced you to the ground with my hands around your throat. Who could tell the difference between suffocation and drowning?
You're confessing.
If it helps you find peace.
I see.
How could you? She was your family.
Never acted like it.
Don't try to stand up for me, Mikhail. Don't try to justify what I did. It has no justification.
No, it doesn't.
You killed her because she was happy with Margriet. That's a terrible reason to kill someone.
But it's mine. For whatever it's worth.
We're going to talk about this when we're done.
You killed me, Regina. Your own family. You killed me. I see. You killed me. Oh, Regina. Regina. Truth or lie? Just Regina.
I am really fighting the urge right now to break the circle and break you.
Even
Yes.
Jorgen had it in his heart to forgive.
Been enough death. No more.
She was more of a mother than my own mother to me.
We can talk about it after she's gone back to hell or heaven or wherever it is she's going.
I think it would behoove you to not speak any more ill about the dead.
Mikhail,
Yes?
let it go. It's poisoning your heart the same way it poisoned mine. Let it go. If you can't do anything else for me, at least do that.
I look forward to seeing what it would be like in the future when there is peace. Perhaps we can all heal. I don't need my dead mother coming face every freaking Christmas. And then having it not be her. That voice, that brief flicker of hope. And then having it be her. But maybe now there can be peace.
Maybe for you. Not sure Marguerite or I will be able to have peace.
We'll see.
I don't begrudge him his peace if he does find it.
I never thought ill of you, Margriet. I hope you know this.
Nor I of you.
My final day. I remember it now. I remember all of it. I woke in the morning. Marguerite and I, we went to our morning prayers. Regina, Michiel, ignoring each other. Michiel, how did you get the necklace from my neck? Why did you take the chunk?
You hurt me that day, refusing to be my family again, staring at me with my dead mother's face. So I wanted to hurt you, and I took this because I thought it would hurt you. But if it brings you peace, fine, have it back, and I'll slide it across the table to the ghost.
Sophie,
Your mother gave that to you.
And it was not yours to take.
It was not. I apologize.
So, do you seek my forgiveness, Michiel?
For this, yes, this was wrong of me.
Sophie, I remember you that morning. You did every morning, tending your chores. I remember afterwards, yes, I'd gone to my sister's grave. I'd been unable to say goodbye, to go to her funeral. There was an emergency, something had happened. And you chose to hold that against me, Michiel. Regina. Rather than try and find understanding in your hearts. You had
I tried
only
to talk to
anger. You had only anger towards me. Always anger. Agreed. Running home, the fight in the marketplace, Jorgen and the young men running after your husband. Sophie, thank you for going with me that morning to my sister's grave. You showed me more kindness than my own blood. And then when the afternoon and the barn doors and you helped, all of you, well, most of you helped. And then the floods came. Sophie saving the horses with me. Marguerite, your son, and Jorgen. They're lost. I'm sorry. And you, Regina. And at this point, the ghost gets up from the chair again. And she walks over to Regina. Takes her hands, pulling them away from the others, clasping them in hers. And she bends down. Do you still see your mother's face?
Yes.
Good. And you feel cold seeping in from your hands, spreading through you. Annette's face, your aunt's face, your mother's face. The dark fire's burning again. It's a cold flame. Hard. Angry. How strong are you, Regina? Let us find out. And your breath catches as your body freezes and you take 2 harm.
Annette, isn't that enough for peace?
Please,
She
we've
watches.
seen so much suffering already in these past 4 years. Enough.
Would you take the harm for her, Michiel?
Of course.
Mikhail, no. This is my penance to pay.
I don't want to lose you as well. I have so few people left.
We all do.
Yes, we all do. And now you have one less. Marguerite, I'm sorry. I will not see you again. Sophie,
Please,
take care of them as you
please don't
have.
go.
This is what I need. It is what I wanted. It's why I'm here. This is why you came. Remember, you wanted to give me the peace to let me go.
But
I need to rest, Sophie. It is my time to rest. It was not perhaps my time to die. But it's my time to rest.
sorry, I didn't stop it.
I do not blame you, Sophie.
It's okay, I blame myself.
Make your own peace, Sophie. Take care of Carl and the horses and the stables. You will do well.
Valkyrie reaches across the table and takes Sophie's hand with a very determined grip.
Mikhail, Regina. I fear we will part in death as we do in life, as we did in life. Well, one less death. May you find your own peace and forgiveness, because I have none for you. Annette stands from where she was crouched over Regina, walks to Marguerite, and there's the caress of a hand on the cheek and the press of lips to the forehead. Find your peace. And with that, she disappears.
Is that it?
The
You
medium
do it?
opens her eyes. It's cold. It's very cold in here. I
She's
warned you not to lie. She is gone.
You promise.
She will not return.
Oh, good. Now what? Do we do? Are you sure we can't pay you?
I will not accept your money. This is not why I'm here. I'm here to help those who need it to find peace. And Annette has found her peace.
Do you know where
You are
she
free.
went? Did she go?
She is
Or-
gone. What do you care? She is gone. You're free of her visits. She will not return. I bid you a Merry Christmas. And with that, the young woman stands, wraps her shawl tightly around her shoulders, and walks out the door, leaving the four of you sitting there, looking at each other.
I'll give my flask to Regina.
Regina doesn't take it. She takes a couple of deep breaths and
Did you tell the truth?
yes. I will be honest, I thought she would take me with her.
We can make that happen.
Over my dead body.
Mikhail, stop.
You're my sister now and forever. No matter what.
She took away the most important person in my life.
Yes, and for that I deserve to pay a price.
Turn yourself in.
I plan to.
Can I escort you?
If it helps you find peace.
it would.
Where do you all go next? Marguerite.
Marguerite gets up very abruptly without saying anything else, and she goes back to the shore and looks out over that great big ocean and just weeps.
Mikhail, do you go with Sophie and Regina from there?
I think so. At a distance.
Sophie, Regina, where do you go?
We go to like the police station or wherever that type of people are. Or at least that's where Sophie intends to lead Regina.
Regina follows quietly.
And as you all make your way to your various destinations, Mikhail escorting his sister and Sophie, Marguerite to the water, to the shore. You pass the empty churchyard, the hallowed place, where the church once stood, where the ghosts gather. And as you reflect on what has happened tonight, choir begins to sing.
Join in as I walk.
And that story has been told. And I want to say how much I love these people, these 4 people sitting here with me, because that was a beautiful story. We're going to take a few minutes, let our players decompress a little bit, stretch, hydrate, and we'll be back in a few. I do want to say a thank you to Lydia Half-Horse Termit for that absolutely gorgeous rendition of Stille Nacht, and for allowing me to use it to close out our game. We'll see you soon. Hi, we're back. Thank you for being here with us and for watching. There was an amazing story. These players are, I can't say enough about these people here. One of the things that I like to do after playing this game now is because I believe that debriefs are very important, especially when you're playing an intensely emotional game or even horror games. It's important that the players get to talk as players about what they were thinking, what they were feeling, things like that. So that's what I'd like to do. And I also like to go check out the Stille Nacht, Petra Volkhausen, itch.io. She's just released the written, this version right here. Before it was just a PDF. This physical copy is beautiful. And I cannot say enough. And I cannot say enough about her, Petra, for writing this game and what she's created with it. So let's you guys we were talking right before we came back about our expectations as you got your roles. Roles are assigned, the murderer, the rest are bystanders, usually about 20 to 30 minutes before we play.
No.
So the players don't have much time to prepare for that. This is an improv game. It's heavily improv.
And I knew that I was going to be very aggressive with the ghost. So I was hoping that I wasn't the murderer, because that made for a better dynamic, I thought, in the story.
Didn't one of us, before we go any further, say they really hoped Regina was the murderer? I feel like someone said that at the end of our session 0, because she would be the least likely out of all of us to have a reason to murder.
I don't remember. You know what? I think that was after I had to bust out for work, because I had to leave early for work. Oh my goodness!
It might have been.
When I told murderer, I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
There was just this moment of what? This is my first time playing this game. I get the murderer. What? Oh my goodness!
You had to come up with a reason, and you did, and it was terrible and great because of that.
Because there's not always a good reason for something that you've done.
Yeah.
I think that was what was going through my head, is that sometimes, even if you have these emotions, you let them control you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with Regina, was that her emotions, all of that, because she was a very quiet individual. We had established that she was very quiet, very soft-spoken, the very sort of keep your head down and follow the rules and just do what you're supposed to kind of person. And when you live
I was the other one,
Yeah. And when you live like that, you end up bottling it all up inside.
And
that's toxic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, she's probably actually the perfect murderer. Now that you explain it like that.
As players, the rest of you, how did you feel about that confession? Were you hoping for a confession for the game, or what were you hoping for?
I didn't have an expectation. Sophie felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. But that might have had to do with Regina's rather soft-spoken short answers. Yeah, I didn't have a hope on that.
I started to confess a lot earlier than I actually did. When I said that I got angry and I snapped, I just barely stopped myself from actually saying that she did it. Because I felt like it was maybe too soon.
Yeah.
The more that I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, this ghost wants peace. We need to let the whole story come out before she actually says the words she did it.
Did you intend to confess? Was that your plan all along?
I don't think it was my plan all along. I think I was definitely trying to play it by ear. I was definitely trying to feel out the story. And like there was a moment where I said I was angry and I snapped, that I thought maybe, are we going to confess now? And then I backed off.
Mhm. And
Well,
I
I
saw,
think from there,
as a
there
player,
was
I remember catching that and going, "Oh, I want to ask about that," but I also nope.
yeah, there was I think what it became was this slow build up to the confession.
Mhm.
And I think that played a lot better
Where
than
we
maybe
knew,
just
but the
flat out
ghost wasn't
confessing
like
there.
present enough to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was
Yeah.
good. I thought that made an excellent story because she just
So
kept
I-
asking questions, and we all knew. We knew where it was going.
I didn't, but okay, you give me much more credit than I.
Did Mikhail ever think about confessing to protect his sister?
Ooh.
No. Me personally, I never lie. So I tend to play characters that also don't lie.
Okay.
And
So-
it's not something that occurs to me. I
So-
would have gladly given up my life for my sister, but I wouldn't have lied. That's
So-
bad.
Priorities.
So that leads
Siblings
to
in a
another.
nutshell.
So that leads me to another question. Then, if you had, as a player, if you had taken the role as the murderer, would you have lied to throw suspicion off of yourself, or to protect yourself, or would Mikhail have confessed at some point?
I don't know.
I think
Or would
perhaps
he have
the
continued to tell the truth but not confess, hoping that he could get away with it, that somebody else
This
might
is
think
also
that was
how
good?
I play Among Us, by the way. I never lie, and I still
Okay.
can win as the imposter because instead of saying things, I'm just going to ask questions. And a question is never a lie not technically anyway. So I think I could have done it, but that's a completely different scenario and how we would all fit together again as characters. Because then Regina would be a completely different person at the table,
Mm.
and it would have gone in a different direction. So I don't know if I can say that.
I think
So-
if I would have been the murderer, Sophie would have confessed to being madly in love with Annette, and also to killing her out of jealousy.
I love the fact that Ulfrigg lied about that fight.
that
Yes.
was very
Amazing.
interesting.
Yeah, that was good.
Interesting. And I knew
Because I did
immediately
like
that
at
I
the
was
time where I was only clicking truth. I was
Yeah.
like, should I be telling lies? Is that like part of the game? I
I
don't
think
know.
perhaps that was possibly a family trait with Regina and Mikhail, because Regina did not once lie.
Mhm.
Not once.
I did. I didn't
Yep.
actually go to your mom's grave. I had intended that to be a truth, and then I thought about it some more, and I was like, that's kind of a good lie.
Okay,
So
fun.
as if for anyone who's not played the game, again, the ghost knows nothing going in. As the facilitator, all I know are the villagers' names, their ages, their occupations, and I know the ghost's name, age, occupation, where they died, and where they're buried. That's the only information I have going on. All of these relationships that come out in the story, the ghost and myself as the facilitator have no idea. I am literally reacting to what the players are putting out there. So as players, you guys were able to talk. You had your own chat that I was not a part of, as you developed these characters. How much of that did you put together beforehand, and how much of that came out through the story?
So we put together a Google Doc with like basic relationships, that or basic opinions our character had, and kind of bits and pieces of like where the ghost was, or like relationships to the ghost and that kind of stuff. So it was,
Relationships to each other. How we
Yeah.
felt about each other.
but I feel like that was a good starting off point. As somebody who does improv, that was like the prompt, and I hadn't decided how I was going to play Sophie until that first question.
Mm.
Or maybe not even the first question, possibly the second question, when it was more about Sophie specifically.
When did you decide on her feelings towards Annette, towards the ghost?
As soon as you gave me my secret.
Okay. What about Ulfrigg and Marguerite's relationship to Annette?
That was decided as part of that Google Doc. It's almost like when you play Monster Hearts and everyone picks strings on each other. So the string between Annette and Marguerite was that they were lovers, and kind of everyone in the town except for poor Jurgen knew. Yeah, so that was decided really early on because that was also a queer relationship and it's vaguely time placed. And so one thing that I wanted to be really clear was if there was disapproval of this relationship, it was because it was a sin and not because it was gay. So that actually was decided pretty early so that we could talk through kind of those dynamics.
The cheating was bad, not the gay part. That was fine.
Yeah. I was going to say, one of the things that we know historically is that, those types of relations have happened as long as there have been people.
We've always been here.
Yeah. Yes. And loved each other and found a way to be together. So I personally enjoy that aspect of having that truth, that reality brought into this. Because again, this is the game that is based in reality and into an event that actually happened.
That was one of my favorite sentences to say. The you can stop calling her your friend now.
That was real good.
I was like, oh dang.
And that's what I went.
Amazing.
Oh, okay. I like this. Let's see where this goes. Because sometimes that relationship, in the last time I ran this game, the ghost had that relationship with at least two of the characters. And it was a very contentious, very power imbalanced relationship. And so it's interesting to see that come out as, and not be that that imbalance in power dynamic, but to have it be a true loving relationship. And that's what I was coming up with as I was learning more about Annette and Marguerite. And I wanted that relationship to be loving. So tell me about the siblings. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say another thing I mentioned during our session 0 with just the players was that I think in a murder game, or in a horror game, it's very easy to be like, here's everyone's deep, dark secret. And what's actually more interesting is when they're good people with these kind of wretched flaws, I guess, is the way I would put it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So tell me about the siblings. And this complex family relationship.
I think a lot of that was off the cuff. We had decided that we were siblings and we had decided what our relations were to other people, but like by and large, how we felt about each other and how we felt about the other members of our family, I think most of that came out was just invented on the spot. I knew that going in, Regina had a low opinion of Marguerite because of the adultery. But I didn't really have an opinion of the ghost all that much. I made that up as we went.
I had that figured out going in, because that's what I came up with as a result of the prompt thingy. Someone saw me leaving crying. I was like, I wonder what I'm sad about. And then I considered that I would like be reaching out on an emotional level and be rejected. And my brain threw out the twin thing. And I thought that was really good. That she was like a living memory of my dead mom and she wouldn't love me. And I thought, oh, that hurts. That hurts real good.
That was a real good night.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
So what was...
I hadn't planned on him being so bitter about it, though. But then I thought, we're 4 years in the future. And he's being haunted by this woman. And I considered like the fact that she would show up and like talk, and he would be like, oh, "It's my mom," and then it turned out to be her. And
That
that's
got me
another one of
crying.
those.
That got me crying
that was
more.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a moment in character where I like as a player realized the ghost was about to go, and then I'm like, oh my god, I'm getting more choked up now because I'm like, but I don't want my mother figure to go.
Mhm.
Like my intention was to give you peace, but now I second guess myself.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. So did Sophie find some empathy there towards Regina McKeel?
Probably not.
And that's totally fair. I
Mhm.
mean, like, if I were in Sophie's shoes, I would feel the same way. And you're not obligated at all to forgive someone like that.
Yep.
Sophie, the way
Like me not being upset with her, that's a character flaw, not a good choice.
well, no, it had more to do, I think, by the end, Mikhail being super bitter and speaking ill of Annette started rubbing Sophie the wrong way.
Mhm.
To the point where she was ready to fight everyone. She was about to throw hands. And finding out someone that Sophie looked up to as like a true artisan ultimately killed like the most important person in Sophie's life. Like that hurt.
Yeah, I think that definitely made it all the more sour.
But I
But-
appreciate.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick here, I appreciate that Regina was willing to give Sophie some closure and allow her to like escort her to the police.
I had the thought that Regina goes and ends her own life, but when Sophie said that I want to turn you in, I think Regina realized that it wouldn't, if what she was really looking to do here was bring peace to people, then it was almost obligatory for her to go through the proper process, no matter how it ended. To end her own life would be to take that away from Sophie, and she didn't want to do that.
How did Marguerite feel about the confession?
I think from very early on, that's interesting because I think it's Ulfrigg figured it out, I think, earlier than Marguerite did. And Marguerite needed to hear it to believe it. And then I think once Marguerite heard it, like, the interesting thing is Marguerite has never actually confessed to her sin, that she was an adulterer. So I think I hadn't really thought of this. I think that going to the shore then was mostly a reflection on we're going to lose someone else in the community, but also a little bit of like, is this part of what it means to atone?
I thought that was super powerful because of the flood and that the ocean like took so much from all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I had in my head that my character would go swimming sometimes in the ocean, just like as a way to get control back.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did Mikhail feel about hearing his sister confess?
I didn't want to hear it. Like at the moment, I figured it out. I was like, okay, we know. Let's just tell this ghost, like, it's her, it's fine. We don't need like the gory details. Now you know, right? That's enough. Bon voyage. Let's get you off to the afterlife. I didn't want to hear the gory details as my character. That was rough. Especially when I discovered that the reason was terrible.
Mm.
So do you think he's going to turn some of his anger onto his sister, or is he
No.
going to forgive her?
Immediately. He's never even gonna. It's just gone. He can't lose her. You know, he feels so alone without his mother, and his sister is his best friend.
I think that's what Regina was most concerned about with her confession, was how it would affect her brother and how he would take the news, and the way that she saw him and his bile and his bitterness. She wanted healing for everybody in that room, her brother included.
I think he'll get it. I think he'll visit his aunt's grave and, I don't know, something. How was all that bitterness I threw for you, Kat?
Oh,
'Cause
for
I
me?
came at you hard.
Yeah, I will say again, this is the 7th time I've run this game. Each ghost is different. And I'll say the last couple of ghosts that I've played were just not nice people. They were mean. They were how do I put this? Mean, egotistical. They were abusive in a lot of ways. If not physically, there was a lot of emotional abuse, even some gaslighting. It was they were not pleasant people. And so as a facilitator and as the ghost, I think as the ghost, Annette was not unaware of, I mean, she knew how her nephew and her niece felt about her, especially her nephew. He had made that very clear. Excuse me, I have this monster who is
Beautiful
trying
void.
to get to my dice. Yes, this is Salem, by the way. He's
Good name.
annoying.
I want to watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch from the 2000s. I thought it was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so receiving that anger, I think Annette still, she didn't feel it was deserved. It's not her fault that, her sister died, or that, her nephew was looking for things from her that she didn't have to give, or didn't, how do I put this? Trying to find the words here.
Mikhail's feelings were not her responsibility.
Right, exactly. She didn't feel that she had done anything to earn his spite and his anger. And so she's coming at it from, you're demanding things of me that you're not willing to give on your own. You've come at me with this anger and this bitterness, and I've never shown that to you. We may have been distant. So I think she was kind of, especially at the beginning when she didn't know anything, she was confused by it. She didn't understand it. And in life, I think, and once her memories came back, Annette again was that's not my problem. That's yours. You have this problem. These are your feelings that you need to resolve.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me. It's not on me to do that for you.
And I want to make it clear that I, the player, get that.
Oh, yeah.
This is a character.
Yes. Yep. That's so again. So let's go back to characters and players. How many of you have any of you ever played something like this before? Played a horror game in which you've had to come at somebody? That
My first horror game.
I've played 10 Candles before, and it's another horror game where a lot of times things come out that are not predetermined, and so you really have to be able to go with the flow. And yeah, and there's almost a like survivor vote off the island type thing with 10 Candles, so it can escalate quite quickly.
I think this is definitely the first game of its kind that I've played. If you can count Monster of the Week as a horror game, I've played Monster of the Week in the past, but This is definitely the first game of this kind that I've played, and it's definitely an experience in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think. Because I've had lots of LARP-esque experiences, which this feels much more like a LARP than an actual like tabletop role-playing game to me, or even an improv game. Which I guess so, but I don't think I've played a horror game. 10 Candles is certainly on my list of games to play. But I have not yet. I guess the closest thing, I ran a game of Dread. Dread is character creation through questionnaires, and then it's supposed to be Jenga Tower. And when you start play, you pull a certain number of pieces from it. But it doesn't necessarily have the, at least not the scenario I ran, where it's like intensely antagonistic, or has the potential to be intensely antagonistic. I suppose you could write a scenario that's more like this, but not the one that I played.
So let's talk about that emotional intensity. You said that you hadn't really done any prep or background into it. Pitch, you said that you'd watched the beginning of the Trooper game to kind of get the vibe. How prepared were you guys for this? Because I know I was spending a lot of time trying to make sure that you were prepared for this, because I've seen what it can. I've seen this. I know that how this game can get for people. So how prepared were you for that?
Enough, I knew what was going to happen because I'd read the book. I got the vibe from that video. I knew what my character arc was, and it worked out. I'm sitting here. I'm happy. I had a great time. I got some cool emotional acting to do, and yeah.
To be honest, I think I did the perfect amount of prep. I think I would have been spoiled on the experience had I watched anything else other than character interactions, because I did watch that on the one that you were in on Encounter Roleplay, but I was working, so I couldn't. I probably would have ended up watching that whole one had I not been working.
I also felt pretty well prepared. I have used the ONX system quite a bit, and having that there with the positive check-in with the O is a huge comfort for me at the table, and we used it several times behind the scenes. So that was a big thing in terms of me feeling like, yeah, I'm ready to go. We can check in positively. And there was a last minute line in Vale added that folks were just like, yeah, okay, we can deal with that. That I really appreciated folks being like, yeah, we can go with that. Yeah, so I actually felt very safe. Like, if I hadn't felt prepared, I wouldn't have gone there emotionally, and Marguerite would have been much more closed off as a character, because as a player I would have gone, not the table to bring it,
Oh, I'm glad that you felt safe. That to me is the best thing that you can say from as a player to somebody running a game, is that I felt safe to do this and to go there emotionally. So
cool.
Thank you. That's the highest compliment I can imagine. Celeste, you've watched these.
Yeah, I watched, in particular, I watched the one at EncounterCon with Anna, Nymeria, TP Grant, Tom. I can't remember everybody at that table. I remember those two in particular.
Charlie,
Charlie, and Anita.
And Anita. Yeah, Anita,
yes.
from Critical Miscord.
Yeah, and that was my first experience with the game, and immediately I could tell it was something that I wanted to throw myself at, especially as someone who is typically a very emotional role player and as somebody who role plays emotional characters. This was definitely something I wanted to sink my teeth into. So when I saw that this was an opportunity here, I was like, yes, especially with Kat, yes. Give this to me
People talk
now.
very highly of this game and their experiences playing it. So
Oh yeah, and I didn't. It's funny because after our session 0 and after a little bit of thinking, like the next couple of days after that, this game was out of my brain for the next like month or so.
yeah.
And then we got into the beginning of November, and I was like, oh yeah, I've got this coming up. Let me think about that. And I maybe thought about it once or twice over the course of the first week of the month. And then I was like, yeah, let's go. I knew this was going to be an improv experience, so like I didn't feel like I had to put a whole lot of thought into it.
But I think that's a testament to the work we did as a group from the very beginning, that we created, for lack of a better term, monster heartstrings for all of our players, which actually it was really interesting. And I just want to share this real quick, if you're okay with it, Ulfrigg. Can I share what Marguerite thought of Sophie?
Yeah.
Okay, so I told Ulfrigg my secret, which was, I think you saw me like intimately with the ghost, and then Ulfrigg turns around and goes, Marguerite distrusts Sophie because Sophie is beautiful and was a possible temptation for the ghost. And I think we actually, correct me if I'm wrong, grew closer through our experience, and Sophie being so open with, yeah, I loved the ghost, like
I definitely saw
more
that.
than a mom to me, but I also saw how happy she was with Marguerite, and I couldn't get in the middle of that.
You think
Or I
your
would-
characters will still be connected after this?
Oh, heck yeah. So if she wants it, Sophie has a brand new mom.
I did imagine like Sophie like taking over the stables, and like still being very close with Marguerite.
So another question I have for all of you is, you know that the ghost is has been coming to visit you for 4 years. What are those visitations like? How did you imagine that happening on Christmas Eve, having this ghost come to you? How
That's how
do
the
you
Trooper
picture
video
that?
started
Mm-hmm.
with that question. So I was prepared to answer it because that made me consider it, because otherwise I wouldn't have. I think it'll be the water, because that's very. I think the voice and the presence will come from the water, and there'll be like this urge to fling myself into it. That's what the ghosts do, and that one in particular.
So I hadn't really thought about it, but based on my first answer, or my answer to your first question where you asked like did we do any like special rituals, I imagine Sophie meditates in the hayloft to feel close to Annette, and probably does a long session on Christmas Eve, specifically because it makes her feel close. And I think either she's meditating or she comes out of a meditation to Annette.
Do they talk?
I think so. I think Sophie probably tells her like all the happenings in the barn about the new foal who was born in the spring, and you know, if any horses passed away, but not Carl. It was the first vaguely German sounding name I could think of, because I had read the name
No, it was great.
before that, and I was like, Carl, cool. Yep.
Oh, speaking of which, the accent. How was that for everybody?
Excellent. Seems
Yes.
very genuine.
Yes. Yep.
It's a Dutch accent. It's my natural one, but it's close enough. And I didn't want to do a German one because that has a different vibe to it. I felt this one was good, and I've never gotten to use it before because you don't see a lot of Dutch people in just media, so they don't have a vibe. They there's nothing associated with them, so it doesn't often come up. So I was happy to get to use it here.
That's great. So how does Annette visit Marguerite on Christmas Eve?
I think it is honestly one of many visitations from the people Marguerite lost in the flood. And like when I Ulfrigg think of haunting, it's about being unable to release yourself from something in the past. And the idea of like I was not expecting that reaction.
It just fits so perfectly based on Marguerite and Annette's relationship for it to be like that. Sorry. I didn't mean to derail you.
No, that's cool. Yeah, so I think it's one of many visitations that have to do with her guilt. I hadn't thought much about like what it looks like or sounds like necessarily, just kind of that weight of it, I guess.
So is it an event she looks forward to, or one that she would dread?
Both. Because on the one hand, she gets to see her again, but on the other hand, she's clearly not at peace and is clearly troubled. And it's causing trouble everywhere in the town that she continues to visit. And yeah, so I think like Sophie said, being really sad when she was finally released. When Annette was finally released. So it is like this small part of like, yes, she's still here, she's still with me, but also she shouldn't be.
Very bittersweet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's
Celeste.
the word.
I think she would show herself every year when Regina went to the grave. And I think perhaps the first year it gave her a bit of a fright. She was not expecting. I mean, I think the first year everybody got a bit of a fright when the loved ones started coming back. But I think Regina in particular had expected that this was going to be her penance. So when it wasn't, and then in subsequent years it continued to not be, that just made her want more and more for it to be over, want to go pay her penance, but not so much that she was willing to like go turn herself in about it. And I think there was a part of her that just kind of wanted it to fade away, or maybe even she thought that experiencing it every year was her penance. So maybe she wanted it to continue happening. It was sort of like a, like when people flagellate themselves for their sins kind of thing, It was like a self-harm. This is the price that I pay for what I've done.
Did Regina consider not confessing to continue those visits as her penance?
I don't think that thought occurred to her because I think bringing the ghost piece was a higher price to pay, no matter the cost. I think bringing the ghost piece in her eyes was more fair than continuing to suffer.
Okay.
The ghost piece had higher value to her than her own suffering.
So what haven't we touched on yet about playing these characters, creating these characters, playing this game that strikes you?
So as somebody who has a theater background and really enjoys improv games, it was a fun exercise, especially as a player only knowing whether I told the truth or not. And watching you, based on her answers, put together a story, and including bits that didn't end up being true, like the part where Sophie was with Annette at the grave, and probably other lies. It just was very interesting to see the story crafted because we answered questions and you basically yes-anded them with more details with the questions you asked, which was really cool from an improv perspective.
I tried to make it feel a little more natural by continuing to just talk as well, not just having it be question answer.
Mm-hmm.
That felt too rigid when I read that was how it was built.
So helpful in the early game. So helpful.
And that's I'll actually say that's one of the things that Patra has shooting for is question answer. It's not an interrogation. It's not supposed to come off as an interrogation. It's supposed to become a conversation, and you all did that, and I really appreciated that.
You
Any
asked
other thoughts?
really good open-ended questions that to prompt.
That is all
Prompt that.
Petra. That
Mm.
is Petra in the game. That is the way the game is written. All of those questions. There's a script.
But even your
the phys-
follow-up questions to people's answers still felt like it needed more of a response than a yes, no kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Take some credit.
I like that this is set up to be filled with emotion. There's a lot of role-playing games where you solve a puzzle or you cross a canyon or something, and it's
Hack and
something you
slash.
can think something about, but it's tough to feel something about it. But this is drowning in emotion. So, and that's something that I look for and really appreciate, that someone thought of this as such an amazing opportunity to do an RPG about, because it works so well.
And I think
So-
the interesting thing, just real quick, sorry, as we were creating our characters and the relationships they had with each other, we didn't know who was the murderer at that point.
Mhm.
So we have these like super complicated or multiple layered relationships that I think just made them feel like real people first and foremost. And then we added the layer of one of us is the murderer. Oh shit. On the top of that, like the icing of oh shit, one of us is the murderer. And my wheels were turning like the whole time. Even though I missed a very obvious clue as to who it was.
I think one thing that really happened with this game that I really appreciated was that it was not in any capacity black and white. There was not clear good, clear evil. There was just all these varying shades of gray. And I think it really showed off the complexity of the human condition.
Yes.
People are not black and white. People are complicated. People are messy. Relationships are messy and complicated, even the most straightforward ones.
And people
come
make
out that way.
mistakes.
I'm gonna
very straightforward.
quote my favorite scene from Shrek. Only I'm going to substitute. People are like onions. They have layers.
Yes.
Make you cry.
And people do things for reasons that aren't justifiable.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah. How did any of your what you came into preconceived with your character, how did that change? How did those relationships change? You had those relationships to begin with. Did any of them change, and how so as the story developed? Because again, this is almost a pure improv game, at least as far as the players are concerned. I mean, I do a little bit of dice rolling in the background, and that's strictly to randomize whether or not the ghost believes what they've been told, or if they feel any sympathy for those who are telling the truth. So, so how did there's no real mechanic to the game for the players. how did your ideas of your relationships change as you told this story?
I have two real quick. I kind of touched on it already, but when we created our characters, I expected Marguerite and Sophie to have more of an adversarial relationship. Though as an improver myself, I kind of left it open, like knowing in the back of my head Marguerite distrusts Sophie, but that doesn't mean Sophie has to be adversarial back.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't quite anticipate the level of motherliness that Annette had towards Sophie until we got into it, and she started saying, you know, I can trust you, like you're dependable, like all of that. Those were character traits that basically Kat had given Sophie based on my answers to her questions, which was interesting. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna say yes and here we go.
For me, the big relationship was with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, with the reveal. And I liked that she was shutting me down, you know? That whole, no, stop it. You know, you're doing a bad
I was
thing.
a little hesitant to do it at first.
Oh,
I was a
love that.
little hesitant to do it,
No.
but I think the more vehement he became, the more scared Regina was becoming for her, especially when the ghost started hurting people. She became scared that Mikhail would draw the ghost's ire and the ghost would harm him or even maybe kill him. And I think basically it manifested, the shutting down manifested as a protectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Stop being so angry, you're going to get yourself killed. But then it became more of stop being so angry, it's going to poison you for the rest of your life like it did me.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of came like the moment you said, you know, sometimes your reasons for doing things don't have a justification. Stop trying to justify this for me. Like the coming to that, and maybe it was 4 years, but like hearing her say it out loud was really powerful as kind of the bystander to that exchange between the siblings. For her to recognize, yes, I did this. I don't think I was justified in doing this. I'll admit that. Stop trying to make excuses. Like it just was a really cool moment in my mind.
I think from the moment it happened, Regina knew how terrible it was. And that's part of why she kept it a secret, but I think that's also part of why she really felt she needed to come clean. She knew it was a terrible thing that she did. And as inconvenient and as toxic as it was, it needed to be acknowledged.
We did good.
Yeah. So I have one last question for you guys before I have several questions actually, but this one relating into your characters as players. Did you tell anybody else about the visitations?
Honestly, for Sophie, I don't think she had anyone else. And we never established if Annette was married, so possibly Annette's husband, but I don't think she would have told anyone. Really and truly, I think she would have bared that burden on her own. Or kept it a secret because it was like her moment every year to see the person she loves above all else.
I don't think Regina would have told anyone simply out of self-preservation. She would have felt that receiving these visitations, even though she knew other people was getting them, she would have felt like it would have somehow shone light on what she did, and she didn't want it to come to light yet.
I think I would have primarily talked to other people in the village about it. I think I would have told Regina and our dad that it was happening, but I think it would be too painful of a subject to really talk about a lot, you know? So I think I would go elsewhere for that.
And I think that makes it all the more interesting that Regina didn't tell Mikhail that she also received visitations from the same person.
Mhm.
I think that really there are some things you don't tell even those closest to you.
I also think Marguerite probably didn't tell anyone. I was really struck by the description in the book of the scope of loss for the flood. And just trying to think about what that would do for the relationships that remain. And I think, yeah, it probably would have felt very precarious. And like that day for these 4 people obviously has a significant meaning, but it also has a huge meaning for anyone else, the few else who managed to survive this event. So I don't think Marguerite would have put her troubles on top of that.
So again, you said you're reading back into the background, and I've touched on this before. This is a game that is based on a historical event. This hurricane, this flood, did actually happen in East Frisia. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably not. It was one of the German coastal regions that was hit hardest by the flood. And again, this is set in the early 1700s. The Christmas flood happened in 1717, and we set the story several years later. Over 10,000 people were killed when this flood and hurricane hit the coasts of the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark. And if you do get this book, there are maps in here that show how much land was covered by water.
It's incredible. It's absolutely
It
incredible.
is incredible. And PH, so you were, I remember we talked about this a little bit before, as far as knowing the historical event, or knowing of the historical event.
We have a bigger flood, so that's the one that immediately took over my mind when we talk about flooding in the general region of the Netherlands. We have one in I don't remember exactly. I think it was in the 1900s somewhere, but that one was real bad. So I feel like a sense of ownership about floods because I'm Dutch, and that's our whole deal. We live in a country that's below sea level, and
So,
we're surrounded by dikes everywhere, and things to like organize our water supply and where it goes.
So coming from that area, and having this game that's based in a historical event, being, I'm sure, able to picture much more clearly than the rest of us what that actually looked like or would look like. How did that affect you for the game? Did it draw you closer into the game, or were you able to kind of separate that? I'm curious. You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I could definitely tap into it, and like I've seen news items because there was the news when that happened, and just the loss of life, the devastation. It's something that you notice, and there's like landmarks to say, oh, this is where the water went, and you're looking at like halfway through up a building. You're like, how did it get there? That's so high. But that's how far below sea level we are. So that's definitely a thing. And you mentioned Friesland and Frisia. That would be the English way to say it. And that's the top of the Netherlands. That's the very top of the Netherlands.
Oh.
I googled what the German would be, because that would be right next to it, and it looks like that's called just Nord or Bremen. Maybe no, that's a city. But
let's see. I think she's actually got it in here.
Yeah, it's fun because I never look at that part of Germany, but obviously it counts.
It reminds me a little bit of I've been out to Tybee Island off the coast of Georgia, and when you're out there and you're on the beach, like just at the edge of the beach where there are buildings, there's a pole, and it shows you where the water level can rise to during various hurricanes of varying strengths. And I think I have a picture of myself standing next to that pole, and I barely come up to a Category 1 hurricane on that pole. Barely.
There's actually an image of a copper engraving depicting the Christmas flood as it hit Nuremberg. So that's one area that was affected by this. And when Petra wrote the game, the specific village that she based the fictional, lots of talking today, village is a place called Itzendorf. The old settlement is no more. If you look it up on a map, you'll find a neighborhood of the same name belonging to the German town Norden. After the flood in 1717, the dike was in disrepair. The people built a new one further inland, which meant that parts of Itzendorf were left to the sea. There was a second flood, a New Year's Eve flood in 1720, 1721, that forced the construction of yet another dike even further inland. And while a new place with the same name continued to exist, the old settlement was effectively abandoned. Itzendorf drowned, the village is drowned, and all that remains today is a sandbank that you can visit when the tide is low. Fishermen of the olden days claim that in some nights you can still hear the church bell of the lost village as it calls out to the people on land.
I'm going to break the mood I looked at the thing and I thought I found where it was, because I found a town that started with Itze, but it's slightly different. It's called Itzehoe. Right? Not a joke. Real place.
I am not surprised. Nothing surprises me.
I mean, the U.S. has an Idaho, so
yeah, that's true. So I wanted to go back. I'm looking in chat, and Ulfrigg, you mentioned something about wanting to write a thesis on the position of the GM in this game.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I flip back and forth between player and GM quite a bit. I run a lot of like one-shot shorts campaigns, and it's so different in terms of the onus for preparation. Like the GM really being in charge of setting up the safety tools and times and all of that. But the amount of information the GM has is so different from any other game. Like you said, you come in knowing a name and age and where they were found, where they were buried, I think. And for the players to have that much room in creating the story or the narrative is completely different from almost any other game I've played, where the GM is very much kind of controlling the pacing and and has a story often in their head. And well, the way I GM, I have a story in my head, and about 40 minutes in, it goes completely off the rails.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. But I think it's really fascinating to me to go, okay, what if you come with nothing but the script, and how does that change things? And I was thinking about like how many games you see GMs who are really popular as GMs because they can bring these like big, fantastic, assorted NPC voices and stuff, and almost the Annette's flatness in this, as she starts with so little memory, and how that kind of again creates space for the players to have this really emotional experience and bring it, because the GM, the way you did it today anyway, is almost like just it's just leaving that space there and just kind of like, okay, I'll let this influence me incrementally, but that I'm very interested and want to think more.
This
It's strange
is
for a character that the ghost doesn't remember you. You have all these feelings and a relationship, and it's gone.
This is kind of a strange analogy, but it's almost like building an emotional Mr. Potato Head. It's like we start with a blank slate, and we're building this character
Mhm.
for the GM to display for us.
I think it's very interesting because basically all that Kat had was the dramatis personae, and we filled in the script as we went along to make it a theater improv analogy, because that's what I do. Don't call myself theater nerd for nothing.
So, I will say this is the only game I GM. This is the only game I've ever run. And what those points that you touched on were what drew me to this game. Is here's the setting. You know, you hand this over to the players and say, here's your setting. Here's what happened. Here is the specific of the specific scene setting. Go create your characters within that boundary, and then we're going to ask some questions and tell a story together. And it's, to me, it's, GMing terrifies me.
Oh, you'd be so
But
good
this-
at it, though.
This game is so thank you. This game is so structured, though, that it makes it easier. It's more comfortable for me because it is so structured, that I feel almost like I'm a player as much as you are within it, because I'm responding to you guys, and letting you be, and being able to, I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, you hear GM say is, you know, my favorite part is being able to sit back and let the players do their thing. And I enjoy that more and more and more each time the story gets told, because it's never the same. It is never the same way twice. And to be able to just sit back and watch you guys just tear each other to shreds emotionally, it's really good.
It was very interesting to watch your camera specifically and notice when you muted and just sat back and watched us go at each other, and when you'd get involved in instigating more opportunities for you to sit back while we were going after each other, in like the best possible way.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, some of that was dealing with my idiot cat. I'll be honest, some of it was me going, God damn it, Salem, would you? God. And trying not to actually show that, as he was being a pest and he's trying to, you know, he's walking all over my keyboard, and he literally came over, laid down across my keyboard and my mouse.
He knows how to get attention.
Yes, he's very much a brat.
I'm aware we have to wrap up, but I'd love to talk maybe off mic sometime about what it's like when you are handed one of these nastier characters and how that affects GMing or playing or facilitating.
I can tell you it is, I believe in a lot of, again, debriefs and aftercare. And after some of the more particularly intensely emotional games, I'm still checking in with players 2 to 3 days afterwards, because of how intense it gets. So yeah, there's that. But yes, I'm happy. I will talk about this game at length for hours because I absolutely love it. I adore it. I encourage everyone to pick up a copy and to play it, whether you run it or you have somebody run it for you.
Just read it. It's a good read.
It's an excellent read.
It really is.
Yeah.
And again, I want to come back to what you've been saying, Theater Nerd, about one of the first things that a friend of mine told me, who's also with a theater background, is he said, it's not so much a game as it is an improv exercise, which is something else that I really like.
Which is why I'm kind of glad I didn't do more prep into my character, because normally I'm like, I want to know every detail about their entire backstory, and I need to know this or I can't play long-term campaigns. But as I've started to play more one-shots and even start to run some of my own, I'm discovering that it's even more important to go with the flow. like to make decisions based on what you've been given by the other players and how you think your character would react. And that's really all that improv at its core is, being thrust into a situation and deciding as your character what's.
And Petra actually wrote this game to be run as a pickup game. That's why there's so little prep to it. It was written to be run at a con. Or just as hey guys, I've got this game, it's only going to take us a couple of hours. The longest I've ever had one run is 2.5 hours. The shortest is just under 2 hours, and that's without any the discussion afterwards. And where
I'm very wary about playing this sort of emotionally intense game with strangers.
Yes, I would be
Not
as
that
well.
I know each of you super well, but still,
Yeah, again,
I have some confidence.
It's amazing how it's developed over time. Petra and I have talked about that actually, and she had not initially written it to be the kind of experience that it turned out to be for most people. It was written to be a supernatural murder mystery of finding clues and figuring things out. And it's again, it's evolved into more of this kind of an emotional style game. And my son is singing. Hang on a second.
I'm trying to get a game.
And I would say my one goal for this game is I want to run this game in person. I want to run it as a seance.
Amazing.
That is with candles and again using some of the old tricks that the old what's the word I'm looking for? The old mediums used to use with knocking on tables, smoke machines,
The pedals, yeah.
The pedals, yep, everything like that. That's my dream for this game, is to run it on a Halloween night as the seance using candles and everything like that. Someday I will run this game in person when.
That would be the most epic LARP ever.
I think my one real concern coming into this was that I didn't know everybody terribly well. And it was a real comfort to me that everybody was that we meshed so well. That we played off of each other so well, and that we meshed so well. And that not only did our characters come together and develop, but also we, I feel, as people came together and developed.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the reasons why I encouraged you guys to have that session 0 together without me, to have that group chat to talk, because you having that, knowing each other a little bit better, being comfortable with each other is important, because I think it also helps you, like you said, to access that space where you feel safe to do that.
I would agree completely, because I don't know that had this group dynamic been different, if Sophie would have ever actually confessed her love and been willing to admit, yeah, it hurt and it sucked, but I saw you made her happy, so that made me happy. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine playing with people I didn't mesh well with.
So we're getting close to wrapping up. Does anybody have any last minute thoughts about the game?
I think everybody should play this at least once. Everybody should give this a go at least once in their life, whether it's with family members, whether it's with friends that they're comfortable with, even if you're willing to put yourself out there with total strangers. I think everybody should have a run at this at least once, just to experience it, because it is a unique experience unlike any other that I've ever had at a table.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Nobody else?
Oh,
thoughts?
You asked earlier what other games it reminded us of, and I just realized in chat like 2 minutes ago, the other game it makes me think of is Alice is Missing.
I need to play that.
That's on my list.
Which is actually kind of similar in terms of when things are randomized and the stages that it moves in. and the amount of improv that is required. So
It's all text messages. I want to play so bad.
it's all text messages, so it's a great one to play over the internet too.
Oh,
Yes.
Mhm.
I will add that to my list.
I'm trying to get a game together at some point, Kat. So hopefully our schedules align.
Mhm.
Yeah, my schedule right now is if nobody else anything else, let's go ahead and we'll do our outros. I want to say first again, before we go any further, thank you all for playing. You are amazing people. Thank you for telling this story with me. Thank you for telling in that story. And for giving me this ghost to play because I like her. She's not the nicest, she may not be the nicest person, but I liked her. I liked Annette.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and we'll start with Theater Nerd.
Hi,
Tell us who you are.
I'm Theater Nerd. You can find me at the internet at Theater Nerd 221 in all of the places. I just had a successful playtest of my own game that I designed that has a horror urban legend feel. It's called Hunting the Hodag. It's on my itch. That would be theaternerd.itch.io. I'm making some updates due to the playtest that I haven't done yet. But expect that, and I'm hoping to kickstart it probably spring of 2021. I'm gonna go for the craziness and try it. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot planned. Monday there should be a finale for the Call of Cthulhu Under the Burning Skies campaign I'm in on Uncanny Adventure. I'm sad for that campaign to be done, but also excited to see how it ends. Other than that, probably the best place to follow me is on Twitter.
And go do so. Go do so. Paladin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paladin Hulk, Twitch moderator for Ren and Tuesday, Little Red Dot, and the Starward Initiative. And next you can find me is, let's see, Friday, I think, where I play on Raven's channel, where I play Daniel Vanderveer, LAPD detective. I'm looking for my daughter in the Fey realm. She's been kidnapped by some sort of horrible monster. Yeah, things didn't end so well when we last left off, so you should all tune in.
Definitely
And
go check it out.
Sundays, over on Uncanny Adventures, I'll play Holt, the pirate paladin who tries to make friends with all the evil pirates. And I got one. I made another friend, told him my whole backstory as he was chained to a wall. That always gets him. I have a short series coming up with Nerdburger Craig doing Good Strong Hands.
Oh, yes.
That's going to be fun. I'm not quite sure when it starts off the top of my head. I'm going to be playing an imp called Sparky. Haven't figured out the voice yet. He likes fire. That's all I've got.
Definitely go follow this person and check those games out. Celeste.
Hi there, I am Celeste PLS with way too many underscores on Twitter. I'm Celeste Shepherd here on Twitch. I don't do a whole lot of streaming of my own. However, I am in the works planning a charity stream of my own. You can follow me on Twitter for more information about that as it becomes available. As far as the other places that I show up, you can catch me this coming Wednesday on Encounter RP. 6 p.m. Eastern time, we play a game of I Hunt, which the elevator pitch for that is millennials hunting monsters in the gig economy via an app like Grubhub or Uber. So that's a lot of fun. I play a tough punk lesbian bitch with attitude named Yuna. And she just stepped into a room full of vampires and is alone. So her team's going to have to come bail her ass out of that fire. And then, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I believe the Uber Eats is about to be eaten.
Yep. that's about the direction it's going. And then every other Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, you can catch me over on twitch.tv/mattab7, where I play Party Crasher, aka Elodie Young, in a game of Masks in Sunset City. She is coming to terms with the fact that her boyfriend just went through some changes, and her girlfriend might be trying to kill one of her other boyfriends. Basically, the whole team is her giant polycule, so it's very queer. We love it. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I got going on right now. I'd love to see you in one of those two places, and I don't know, maybe I'll show back up around here somewhere else, some other time. I kind of like it here. It's nice.
Ulfrigg.
Hello, I go by Ulfrigg on the interwebs. I am mostly on the Discord, so you can find me if you join the Raptor Pack. I'm pretty sure that link is down in chat there. As far as streaming goes, currently I'm streaming Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Shay Foxy's channel, where I play a Grimalkin character so she can turn into a cat, and will do so at the slightest provocation. Because to be honest, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't spend like 90% of their time as a cat if they could? And on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can catch me on Story Girls channel on Twitch, playing a genderqueer betazoid telepath in Star Trek Adventures.
That sounds interesting.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
What about
Hey,
you, Kat?
Oh, well, I'm Kat at Cleric of Cord. That's where you can find me on Twitter, more or less. Some days I'm there more often than others, and hanging out in different Discord servers. And I like to roll dice on the internet with my friends, and I've got some new friends to roll more dice with. Where can you find me? Coming up, let's see, we've got Tuesday on Encounter Roleplay at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 11 a.m. Pacific, with our second episode of Achtung Cthulhu. So more horror in my life, as we are currently set just in the few days before the Battle of the Bulge kicks off in the Ardennes forest. And as great as the horrors are, there's always more horror. So that's where you can find me on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, I am on at Stalwart Initiative at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We're in a Eberron campaign where I'm playing a character who I described as my, she's actually a thought exercise. I wanted to see just how OP I could get. So I have 5 levels of Shadow Monk and 5 levels of Rogue Assassin. She hits hard, she hits fast, and then she gives you paper cuts. And then on Thursdays at the Lawful Geek every other Thursday. So we're playing this week. We are playing Shadowrun 6e. Again, it's a great game. I love my little shaman, street shaman, and her cat totem. And we've made a deal with the Yakuza. This is fine. It'll be great. No worries. I mean, there's possibly a demon hunting her. One of our people come check us out if you like Shadowrun, if you like that cyberpunk kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. And that's it from me. I'd like to thank Rosie Valdrianth. Thank you so much for giving me this time and place to run this game.
Sure.
Thank you to my players. Thank you everybody who stayed and watched and listened to us chit chat. Thank you for all the donations to Extra Life. That's why we're here. We're trying to raise money for Extra Life to help out some kids who could use a little bit, could use a little help. Make their lives just a little bit better, make it a little nicer. And that's about it. I think
Thank you everyone for coming and showing up. Please stick around and chat and hang out. In about 45-ish minutes, we will have our final game, which is a 5e game, which will be a palate cleanser. Not to say that this wasn't wonderful, but it's a little bit sillier than this game. So with that, I bid the cast adieu. As everybody, please wave goodbye. Wave bye.